Hi there. I'm going to start to do some, let me sit down so I can get out of the way of the light. I am going to do a few videos about this machine because I've had so many people request information on it. So I'm just going to start with the basics. So if you're familiar with this, with sewing at all, it's probably going to be tedious, but I'm going to go ahead and go through step by step so you can see how easy it is to work this machine. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the basic steps. Okay, you get to your machine, you take it out of the box. These labels here, you can remove them, but I wouldn't remove them until you get comfortable with the machine, or you may not want to remove them at all. It's totally up to you. It's a matter of personal preferences. They don't bother me, but they are able to be removed. You can just peel them right off. Same with here. Excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a cold. It gives you all the add-ons to this machine, tells you exactly what this machine includes. You can buy this machine at Walmart for $3.59. I've seen it as low as $3.29 down to $300 on Amazon.com. So it's a nice machine, and I'm just going to walk you through some of the steps. This step I'm going to tell you how to, a little bit, we're going to talk about bobbins. A lot of you might have had other machines in the past, and usually when you go to the store you see these bobbin kits that you can buy. Usually it's either a 66 or it's a 15. The 15s are a pretty common for your regular sewing machines. The 66s are usually your Singer machines. This machine requires a different type of bobbin. This requires the 156, the SE-156. You can buy these at Walmart too. You get a package of 10 for, I don't know, they run around $5.66 and up, or $4.99 and up, whatever you, $4.99, $5.99, something like that. You get 10 bobbins. You can buy them on Amazon also. You can get them on Amazon preloaded. So, but anyway, these are 7/16 in height, and if you take an old 15 bobbin and you line it up, you can see that the 156 are a lot higher. Well, not much, but you know, it's higher. The height is a little bit more than the 15. So if you can still use the 15s on this machine if you want to get rid of your old 15s, but if I were you, I would just take your old 15s and put them on your spool holder and use it as regular thread, or rewind it onto a 156 because your machine runs so much smoother with the correct bobbin. Okay, this is a pretty foolproof machine. It walks you through almost everything. Not only does it give you the diagrams on how to load your machine, it walks you through the whole thing. Also, if you go to your display right here, let me make sure you can see what I'm seeing. On your display here, you get a stylus when the machine comes. There's a little machine with a little question mark on it. This will give you step-by-step instructions on how to load your bobbin. So we're going to go ahead and load your bobbin. So that would be this second picture to the top. So press that. So the first thing it's telling you to do is take your bobbin and put it on your bobbin winder. So let's just pop that down. That's step number 1. Okay, step number 2, they want me to push my bobbin in. So I'm going to go ahead and push my bobbin in. Step 3 is lift up my spool holder and put on a spool of thread. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to number 4, because number 4 will tell you to use the size that works for that spool of thread. They want you to go a little bit larger because they don't want your thread to keep getting caught on that little notch that holds the thread, because if it gets caught on there, it's going to jam your machine, and there's even the possibility of you breaking your needle. If that jams and your needle is broke, so it gets caught like that, you've lost your tension, and it's going to jam and either break your needle or cause you some problems. So always go to the next higher from your spool of thread. Okay, so go ahead and load your thread on. Put your cap on, your spool cap on. Okay, so that was number 4. Number 5, it tells you to take your thread from the bottom. So we want our thread to come up from the bottom. Okay, so now it's telling me to use my threader. Okay, so it gives you your numbers. Here's 1, 2, here's your tension controller. This is important. You need this because you want your bobbin to thread properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and do, I don't know if I can do this with one hand, and tilt this down. So there's 1. 2 is to insert it around here through that slot, come up, and on your tension guide you want to get in that little hook there, and then make sure your thread goes underneath that tension. Let me hold this so I can get it tight. So up around the hook, pull it so it's tight in the tension, and then bring it over to your bobbin. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring it over to the bobbin, and that's your number 3. You see that? That's number 3. Okay, so we're at number 5. So we've just done number 6. We've gone through our tension guide. Okay, so now we're at this point. The manual tells you, most people, if they have a I've done it from the olden days, they would take their spool of thread and run their thread up through the hole, and then just hold that residue thread up in the air while you load a bobbin. You don't do that on this machine. This machine does everything for you. So what you're going to do is you're going to come around here and you're going to wind this 5 to 6 times around your bobbin. This is really good for people who are have bad eyesight, because I don't even have to try and get that in the hole anymore. So I'm going to wind it 5 times, and then see this little notch on the bottom of the gray notch here? It's a cutter. So I'm going to put my thread in, and I'm going to pull it over to the right. And it's going to cut the thread for me. So it does everything for you. You don't have to deal with those small holes anymore. Okay, so that was number 7. Number 8, I just cut it. Okay, number 9, it's telling me to press this button here to turn it on. And I'm going to press it, even though I shouldn't. I'm going to press it. And it's going to give me a message. Okay, it's going to tell me to disconnect the foot controller, because I'm still plugged in on my foot pedal. And it's not going to, this is like hands-free winding. So if I disconnect my foot pedal, all of a sudden I'm going to be able to wind my bobbin by pressing the yellow button. Now if I don't want a full bobbin, I just press this button again. This is, if you disconnect the foot pedal, it's called hands-free sewing. You can actually sew with it too, and I'll show you that when we get to the actual sewing part. So let's go ahead and keep filling our bobbin. And you want it to feed. See how smooth it's feeding? Now if I was holding that thread up, I might not be able to get a smooth feed like that. And they tell you that you shouldn't leave the room while your bobbin is filling up, because if it gets caught under there, it can cause a real problem. But once it gets to a certain point, it's going to, when it fills up to the point that it wants you to stop, go ahead and stop it. Don't go past that, because it's just going to cause you trouble when you go to sew with it. And when it feeds like this and you don't try and move it around with your fingers, you get a much nicer, smoother sew with it. I've noticed that on this new technique. Well, this new way of, it's new to me. I've never had a machine this nice, but I get a nicer sew when I thread the bobbin properly. So it's going to stop on its own. It's pushing it this way, and you can see it's starting to slow down. Okay, it doesn't want to stop. I don't know why. Usually it'll click off. Well, this time it didn't. Okay, so I pressed the button. So we go ahead and take that off, and let's see what our instruction. I wonder why it didn't stop like it should have. Interesting. Okay, so we're winding. I did that. Now cut your threads. Let me put this back in. Usually it pops. I don't know why it didn't this time. Let me see if I have my scissors over here. Yeah, I got the big ones. Okay, so cut your thread. And we did that. Now number 13 is pull it over. Oh, so I guess you do have to do it manually. As soon as it stops, then it's done, even though it keeps to try winding. Because it's not going to do it by itself. It's telling me I have to push it over. Okay, so lift up. 14, and there you have your full. I guess it won't pop on its own. You do have to wait till it slows down. And I usually don't fill a bobbin this full. But there you go, there's your full bobbin of thread. All right, I'm going to stop there on that one. So that's basically how you're going to fill a spool of thread. Okay.